Hello, and thank you so much for tuning in to Vivanista's Tuesday Talks. We're thrilled to have you joining us today, and it's my honor and privilege to be sitting here with Vivanista member Peyton Cochran, who actually splits her time between San Francisco and New York and many other cities in between. But we're excited to have Peyton here today because we're actually going to be talking about and recapping an event that Peyton chaired in New York for the American Folk Art Museum. Some of you may have remembered we profiled Peyton in our Tales from the Chair column. And so today we're going to get a little bit of insight from Peyton on her background in fundraising, how she got involved with the American Folk Art Museum, how the event went, and any tips and tricks she would recommend to anyone chairing an event in the future. So without further ado, welcome Peyton. Thank you so much for being here today and supporting Vivanista. I'd like to begin with asking you to share a little bit about your background in philanthropy and volunteer fundraising.
Let's see. Well, I've always been someone who's been intrigued and wanting to volunteer, and all throughout high school and growing up, working with the local church and community service and mentoring little kids. But recently the involvement I've had is with the Kristen Ann Carr Fund in New York City, which is support and research for sarcoma research. One of my best friends had lost a cousin to sarcoma, so I've helped chair their annual Halloween benefit gala for the past 3 years in New York. It's been a tremendous success and a lot of fun. Involvements in New York City also include, the New York Red Cross, American Red Cross, as well as SHARE, which is self-help for women with breast cancer. And then, last but not least, the American Folk Art Museum. And I kind of split my time in between. Really, the American Folk Art Museum is my main concentration, and I kind of spend some other time with friends and helping them promote either their charity events or local community outreach programs.
And with the American Folk Art Museum, what was it about that museum spending your time? So what was the impetus with the Folk Art Museum? And tell us a little bit about the event that you just did and what that entailed and what the elements were.
So my background, I was a studio art major in college, and I've always been drawn to creative and like-minded kind of individuals who want to help and promote the arts. And my godfather, who is a big art collector, used to take me to these art shows in New York City. And New York is the mecca of incredible museums. You've got the MoMA and the Guggenheim and the Met and the Whitney. And when I started going to these events, I was just shocked. One, because I'd never heard of the American Folk Art Museum. And as I attended, I noticed that I was by far the youngest individual. And I'm someone who seeks a challenge, and as soon as I saw this incredible place where the most phenomenal artwork with these compelling stories of individuals who are self-taught, I was intrigued on how I could bring my friends to learn more about this museum. So I asked my godfather, is there a younger contingent in place? A lot of your competitors, the MoMA, the Guggenheim, have a following. They have the first Fridays of every month. The Guggenheim throws this big, young patrons kind of event. What does the Folk Art Museum have? And there was nothing.
Wow.
So I started working with the team of the Board of Trustees, as well as the event planners and the development team at the museum, on how we could devise a strategy in a way to bring in a younger contingent. And those meetings really were the kind of evolution of this event that we threw back in December. And what we learned really was, okay, you can put people's names on an invitation,
Sure.
and the return on that is, okay, you get a group of 15 people or so to show up. But the longevity is, are you really building a following, or are you really kind of getting just a temporary solution to hit your ticket sale number? So we ended up creating this strategy of throwing a cultivation event to really draw in this crowd, get them into the museum, see this incredible artwork, so that there's a compelling story and they're also compelled to really become involved. So this was not a fundraising event per se, but really a way to get people in so that we could build this contingent.
Create the awareness.
Exactly.
Right.
So we brought our ticket sale numbers. I mean, the prices per ticket were incredibly inexpensive. And
What were they?
They were, let's see, $30 in advance and $40 at the door.
Got it.
And typically, these events, you know, with the DJs and catering are quite expensive in the city.
Minimum 50. I mean,
Right.
Minimum.
So it was, and this was the first event on a Friday that the museum, the American Folk Art Museum, had actually charged. So they were very, very worried about this.
Sure.
But I was
It's a big
convinced.
risk,
It is
especially
huge.
on a Friday night.
Yeah. So it was one of those risks that I think the museum had to take, and in my gut, I just knew that you could get a. I really was, I guess, kind of like on a mission to make this, kind of knock it out of the park. Competition was really steep, so how are we going to make this different and not just your run-of-the-mill art, you know, free Friday, because it wasn't free.
Right, and we all have a budget, and it's like, what?
Right.
How can you, knock it out of the park, or and do things that aren't exorbitantly expensive?
Exactly, and one thing that I guess I've just learned in going to benefits and even cocktail parties, I don't remember what I ate. I don't remember half the time what alcohol was served, except that it was, I had a great glass of champagne, or
Right.
maybe I had a chicken satay with peanut sauce.
Right.
I have no idea. That's typically not something that you remember. And thinking of ways and buzzwords to kind of create and plant the seed of, all right, out in a social environment, I went to this event, and what did you have? Well, we decided to serve Krispy Kreme donuts and White Castle burgers. So, in one of the conversations I told you about, I was out at a bar with some friends, and they were talking about this great, epic event that they had gone to, and how much fun it was. And it was amazing. These White Castle burgers came in, and these Krispy Kremes, and these, these guys are just sharing beers and laughing about this. And I went over and I was like, I couldn't help but overhear you talking about this event. I was like, where was that? And
Right.
They told me. It was at the Folk Art Museum. I said, oh, really? Well, I actually am.
And what a huge compliment.
I know.
I mean,
so it was out here in San Francisco. So the fact that it traveled.
Oh, I didn't know that.
It was, and they actually, the guys that were talking about it are owners of 2 restaurant and bars out here, and now they want to throw an event out here to kind of cultivate a creative following.
Sure.
With local businesses and brands.
Sure.
So it was something so simple, but taking it back down to the basics of, okay, we're making this affordable to anyone, really.
Right.
We focused on smaller brands and not huge alcohol vendors or sponsors, but we were able to secure Firefly Vodka, which is this small distillery down in South Carolina. And it was sweet tea vodka, kind of folky drinks.
Right.
And then pulling it down to, okay, cheeseburgers and donuts.
Right.
Something totally, totally inexpensive, totally doable, and they don't have to be served on a massive silver golden platter, but right out of the box, it was brand recognition and a buzz that everyone started talking about.
Right, the food, and I think that's so interesting, especially when you're thinking about the types of budgets that catering requires. I mean, whether or not you have it is a different thing, but knowing what, professional catering costs, and when you're trying to pull an event together, especially in a museum, and you're expecting the contingent that you were, you can create a sophisticated event with White Castle burgers and Krispy Kreme donuts, as long as you've got fabulous cocktails and
Right.
everything pulled together. Maybe one day. Well, thank you so much, Peyton, for joining us today, and thank you so much to our viewers for tuning in to VivaNista's Tuesday Talks. I want to remind everyone to, speaking of fundraising and charity, to do what they can to help everyone in Haiti right now. And we have a few suggestions on our site, so if you log on to www.vivanista.com, we have a fabulous article on our homepage of how you can help Haiti. Thanks again so much, and we look forward to seeing you next